Good morning. How's everybody? Uh, I hope that you all had a good Friday. And I don't know if you got snow like I did, but yeah, it can be a pretty can be a beautiful thing, but sometimes a little dangerous too. So just be careful out there if you got snow, and if you don't, you're good. um, I want to talk today about the song "By and By," and that's my topic for Saturday Sentiments today. Is by and by. There's a lot to tell, and it may go beyond the scope of what I can cover here, but it's a fascinating story. First, of course, I gotta get my little commercial in right quick. This is my Jazz in the Spirit mug, which has become one of my favorite things. And we've also got some T-shirts too that we're working on. Got a couple people interested in them now, so that's awesome. And of course, I'm listening to my gospel jazz radio. So today, I want to tell you a little bit about the man named Reverend Charles Albert Tindley, and he was the composer of this song, By and By. Now, the full title of it is We'll Understand It Better By and By. And, it's important to note that this song was written in 1905. So very, very long time ago from now. But the words and the message still have a relevance to us today. And they've definitely been a very, just a powerful touch in my life. So Reverend Charles Albert Tindley was born in 1851. His father was actually a slave. You know that was still before the Emancipation Proclamation. And when he was 4 years old, his mom passed away. So he had to learn how to do for himself pretty early. And the story goes that he learned to read and write by the time he was taught himself how to read and write by the time he was 17. And he had an interest in the ministry. So he actually did a correspondence course to learn how to become a minister, and he did it. He succeeded. And the crazy thing is, he had to work too, and the church that he eventually wound up pastoring, he actually had his first job there was as a janitor. No, they didn't call them custodians yet back then. They called them janitor or maybe something else. So that was his job. But one thing, that taught him the importance of service and how to not think more of yourself than you ought to think, as the scripture says. So he always had a very strong heart for social ministry and doing things for people, not just, he was a great preacher too, and people flocked to his church in Pennsylvania, but he always had a heart for doing things for others, and that showed. His church, the church that he pastored, actually swelled to approximately 10,000 people way back in the early 1900s. So it was pretty significant, and it was eventually renamed Tindley Temple, and it's now a National Historic Landmark. But some of the things that the church did back then, they helped people get loans um, to buy homes. They provided hunger prevention assistance before that was even a term people used. um, they were doing it, and um, and of course he was a wonderful songwriter. I guess if people call Thomas Dorsey the father of gospel music, they'll usually refer to him as the grandfather of gospel music, because his music pretty much paved the way from what they called the folk spirituals into the Jubilee music into the gospel hymns, which were different in the sense that they had what they called a call and response, and the way that you sang them, what they called a performance practice was one of the signature things about Reverend Tindley's hymns. And he wrote some famous ones. We'll Understand It Better by and by is one of them. But there was another one called I'll Overcome Someday. And what's significant about that is that is the song that We Shall Overcome is really based on. Some say, and the story was that, the line was so long during the protest that people heard it one way in the back. And, instead of if in your heart you do believe, it said deep in my heart I do believe. And that one stuck. I don't know. The oral tradition about those stories can be a little, some people can disagree, but the great thing is that his music and his message was so forward thinking, and he had such a heart for the people, even way back then. And he wrote about it. Many of the songs at that time only spoke of the life to come. But one of the things about gospel, as it would come to be, was that it spoke to the situation that's going on right now. And, it was able to provide comfort and relief and a spiritual uplift to the people right in the middle of their situations. And so that's why it became so popular. So I'm going to share some of the words first, and then we'll get to some of the music. So I brought my little page from my hymn book, so I'd make sure that I got the words right. I really know a lot of them by heart, but I just didn't want to be, just stumbling or something. So here's the first verse. We are often tossed and driven on the restless sea of time. Somber skies and howling tempests oft succeed a bright sunshine. In that land of perfect day, when the mists are rolled away, we will understand it better by and by. So it's talking about the hereafter, but it's also talking about right now. Now that's very poetic imagery in the very first verse. But then he breaks it down to the right here and the right now. Listen to this. We are often destitute of the things that life demands. Want of food and want of shelter, thirsty hills and barren lands. And then this is what he said about it, because he was a preacher. Just, you can almost hear the sermon. We are trusting in the Lord, and according to his word, we will understand it better by and by. And then it gets a little more somber. He says, and this was the one that really used to get me back in the day. Trials dark on every hand, and we cannot understand all the ways that God would lead us to that blessed promised land. But he guides us with his eye, and we'll follow till we die, for we'll understand it better by and by. And there are more verses that they do. There are just 4 listed here, but I've seen some other ones too. But this is the last verse. Again, dealing with things people go through every day. Temptations, hidden snares often catch us unawares, and our hearts are made to bleed for a thoughtless word or deed. And we wonder why the test when we try to do our best, but we'll understand it better by and by. And here's that chorus that goes in between each verse. By and by, when the morning comes, when all the saints of God are gathered home, we'll tell the story how we've overcome, for we'll understand it better by and by. Why this song really spoke to me is because I think I shared maybe last month or the month before when I was talking about my midlife crisis at 17. What was going on is that I was really going through a tough time, and I was doubting myself. I had made a lot of mistakes, a lot of choices that, affected me adversely. I'll just say, I got kicked out of school, y'all. Not for behavior, for grades. And I was just wondering, what in the world am I going to do now? So many people had, supported me, had prayed for me, had, just encouraged me along the way. And, I felt like I had let everybody down, and I wasn't, this wasn't working for me. I felt I had let myself down too. So what to do, but I found this song. I'm not sure exactly how I found it. Maybe I just heard them singing it in church one Sunday, whatever, but I literally started crying listening to the song. And it's been with me ever since. I actually have about 3 or 4 different versions of it that I've done. One for a male chorus and one for a choir. And then, of course, about the instrumental version, and I'll share some of that later. But, the verse that, there are 2 verses that people often associate with this song. The one that's most commonly associated with it is that one that says in 1 Corinthians 13, now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. And then later, now we know in part. Basically, you can't see the whole picture now, but you will one day, and it will make a lot more sense. The one that I like to use, and it's become a definite memory verse for me, is Romans, from the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, where it says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love the Lord, to them that are the called according to his purpose. I grew up on the King James Version, so that way of speaking is still in my head. But you get the idea. It's just not all going to make sense right now. But if you just hold on, have faith, and trust God, it will after a while. And so don't stop. Don't give in to despair. Don't allow yourself to just wallow in self-pity. But as they say now, keep it moving. So that was a great word. Now, there have been multiple versions of this song, and I'm going to share a few of them with you today before I get to mine, because I want you to really get a good taste of what the song is all about. I see a few people on, oh, Charlton, hey, what's up, dude? And Nelson, I see you guys. Thank you all for being here. So there's one version that's really nice of the Davis sisters, and they were an all-female group from back in the day, and they had a really powerful and popular version of this. And I'm just gonna kind of let the song speak for itself.
Oh, we're tossed and we're driven on that restless sea of time. Summer skies and holly tempered all succeed the bright sunshine. There's a land of perfect day where the mist is rolled away. We will understand it better. Bye, 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 bye. Oh, bye, 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 bye. When the morning comes, when all things come together, we gather home. Tell the story of how we overcome. We overcome, and we learn
Yeah. So they were getting it going. And if you never really understood the connection between the gospel music as it was made popular by Reverend Thomas Dorsey and the blues, you can definitely hear it in the interpretations of songs like that. And there's another one that I wanted to let you hear. It's along the same lines. It's a little more hymn like. But let's see if I can. Yeah, here it is. All right. See the reharm? And here comes the chorus. Yeah. I'm telling you, there's a bunch of good ones. And, in terms of, this is a song that's definitely had a lot of crossover appeal too. So you may have heard, I'm hoping that you've heard of William Gaither. He is a very prolific songwriter. He's the person who he and his wife wrote Because He Lives, Jesus, Jesus, there's something about that, and a whole bunch of other songs. And he actually wrote the words to, he wrote the words to Jesus, You're the Center of My Joy, with Richard Smallwood. So he's a prolific writer. But I want you to see that, this music, which was created, by African American people, has an appeal, that crosses over cultural lines, and so this is the Gaither Vocal Band's version. It's got a little more country feel, right?
Trials dark on every hand, and we may not to
That's
that blessed
Amy Lambert
promised
singing.
land. But he'll guide us with his eyes, and we'll follow till we die, and we'll understand it better by and by.
They're getting it going too. So it's a song that has resonated with a lot of people for a very long time, and of course it's in multiple hymn books, but it's also it's been performed as a solo selection for ensembles and so on. And this other one, let me see, I should be able to find it. Okay. Is this the one? No. Okay. I'll find it in a minute. Oh, yeah. It's in the African American Heritage Hymnal, and they recorded a version of it too. Sound a little more like, like Black Church Sunday morning. The traditional Baptist one. You hear those basses in there? And so that whole effort was organized by Dr. James Abington, who is a very well-known and very well-written, talented scholar on African-American hymnody, wonderful organist, songwriter, former director of the Hampton University Ministers Conference, just an amazing man. But he was the one who really spearheaded the effort for the African American Heritage Hymnal and organized a lot of those recordings. So, so these are a lot of the different versions of By and By. And I'm guessing that probably when the song first came out, you hear a lot of swing. Now, I told you last week that the whole thing of swinging the gospel music or the hymns was as they say in Germany, verboten, which was forbidden. That was not looked upon favorably at all back in the day. So more than likely, it was probably done a little more straight. We will understand it better by and by, da, 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 by, da, 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 da. Was it, we are often tossed and driven on the restless sea of time. So the idea was, a little reserved reverence. But as the swing era came in and everything was between that and Thomas Dorsey, those things started to go from understand it better by and by to understand it better. So, but just know that what we hear today as normative, what we hear as, just the way things are normally done, is actually something that was created over time. So I'm going to let you hear my version, and then I'll say a little bit more after that. Okay, so now that you've kind of gotten a good taste of what the melody sounds like and all that, I'm going to do my version again, which definitely takes into account all these things as well as, the vocabulary of jazz. Same melody, right? Just faster. Repeat the line. Right? Then an interlude. First verse. So some different chords. And now the chorus. And then we go into solos. To the chorus. Some hits. Back to the chorus. Right. And the three last lines. And then Mr. John DiMartino's wonderful piano solo. Now, just like there's call and response and singing, we're doing it with the instruments. Sax. And then the response from the drums. Right? That's Mr. Dwayne Cook Broadneck. The piano. And then back to drums. Bass, Mr. Dan Freeman. Right. And then we go back to the chorus. Kind of vamp our way out. Yeah. Right. So that's my version of By and By, and I hope that y'all enjoyed that. It is available on my CD, Jazz in the Spirit, and it's also you can purchase the CD itself. You can download it as its own song. You can also download the entire album on iTunes as well as on what do you call all the other ones? Amazon. Yeah, I can't think of them right now, but all those digital outlets. You can also stream it on Tidal, on Spotify, on all the streaming services. So to purchase the CD, you just visit www.jazzinthespirit.com, and you know, I definitely would appreciate your support. Just need to get my gospel jazz radio going. Spotify, yes, thank you. So that's the story of By and By in a nutshell, from the man who is known as the Prince of Preachers back in the day, Reverend Charles Albert Tindley. There's lots more to learn about him. Certainly you can Google him and learn about his life and his story, about his music, about his preaching, about his contribution. This is Black History Month, so this is a great time to do that. And I'm trying to learn as much as I can, even to add to what I already know. So thank you for spending some time with me today. And certainly, if you have any comments, any questions, you can put them in the chat, or you can send an email to peoplewhomakeaDifference@jazzinthespirit.com. Once more, peoplewhomakeaDifference@jazzinthespirit.com. We want to definitely hear from you. We want to build up our emailing list. We want to still, I haven't talked about it in a while, but we definitely still want to encourage you all to continue and do what you can to make a difference in the lives of other people, just like Reverend Charles Albert Tindley did a long, long time ago. It's still needed. It's still very important. So do whatever you can in your circles and spheres of influence, and I will attempt to do the same. So thank you guys for joining me and listening to me, and let me know what's going on with you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it, Mr. Nelson. I'm glad you enjoy it, and we're hoping that a lot of other folks will too. So guys, I'm gonna go get going because I got a lot of stuff to prepare for today. I have church tomorrow, and it's going to be our men's day, so it's going to be a really nice time. So, but it's a lot of work. So, thank you guys for sharing some time with me today, and I hope you all have a blessed day and continue to listen to Jazz in the Spirit. All right, I'll talk to you later.